Hi, Jackson here at Song Mentor. Today's song is After Midnight, written by J.J. Cale. It's the first of a couple of J.J. Cale songs I have for you. One coming up in a couple of weeks called Call Me the Breeze. But this one was actually recorded by Eric Clapton in 1970. Cale had already recorded it, but he wasn't a very successful songwriter and song producer and recording artist. Was actually quite struggling. Heard it on the radio and realized, wow, there's one of my songs, and recorded by Eric Clapton nonetheless. So he was pretty happy to get a steady paycheck from that song. And it was after that that he recorded the album Naturally and had his own success, thankfully, as well deserved. Clapton, of course, changed the feel of the song, made it much more up-tempo and rock and pop style. But it's either version. We're going to focus a little bit on Eric's version today, but either version was great. Here's J.J. Cale, Eric Clapton's After Midnight. Well, After Midnight's an interesting song. I mean, it's a great tune, and I'm going back and forth here between the straight-ahead kind of rock version with the backup singers that Eric Clapton popularized, and then that kind of funky blues version that J.J. Cale, that slow, kind of easygoing blues version that he created. So I'm going to do something that I don't normally do, and that is I'm going to give you both approaches to the song and let you pick and choose which one you like best. But let's talk about chords. You're going to need all of the following: an A major bar chord, a C bar chord, a D bar chord, an E bar chord, and of course the C and the D and the E bar chords are all using the A chord formation. I use my pinky. Some of you will want to use your third finger. I find it easier with the pinky. You're also going to need, for that blues version, rather than just an A chord, A bar chord, you're going to need an A7. And all I'm going to do there is pull my pinky off that version of A7. The A7 right there. So just to review again, a bar A chord, C, D, E bar chord, and that A7 right there. Okay, the other thing to tell you is the choice of key. And you know, the Eric Clapton version is in C. After midnight, we gonna hang down. Which is pretty high, and it gets even higher as you get into singing the song. There's really no rule on key changes. You know, if you want to take what I give you here today and just transpose it into C, that's fine if you feel really dedicated to the original version. I went with A. J.J. Cale's blues version is in G typically, although they play it in different keys for different concerts that you check out. But typically it's after midnight, we're gonna let it all hang down. And I just kind of compromised and went with the A chord here because I think it's just a nice feel. It's a little bit easier to sing for the Eric Clapton version, and really, if we're going to do a funky version, then it'll work for that too. So that's the reason for behind the key choice of A, and then all the chords you need for After Midnight. Let's move on. All right, let's talk about Eric Clapton's version first. Now, both of these versions that I'm going to give you the basics for are all about rhythm, the rhythm of the strumming pattern and the chording. So, the Eric Clapton version. It's up tempo, and obviously we're moving there from an A bar chord to D to C back to A. All right, let's take a look at the Eric Clapton strumming pattern, and there's going to be some what I like to call fraps, you know, some plucky kind of things in there that they're strums. You're still fingering the chord, but when you lift your fingers up off the chord, you mute the strings. And there's some of those in this pattern. But here's the pattern. So we got strum, frap, up, down, up, frap, down on the D string, 2 ups. There's one more frap before those 2 ups on the C. Okay, speed it up. After midnight. And now we get into the vocal part, and the chording's like this. Slow that down. Okay, and that takes you through pretty much what you need for the Eric Clapton feel for this song. For strumming. All right, armed with that rhythm pattern that we just established there, and you're going to have to practice that a few times. If it's difficult for you, keep working at that rhythm pattern, because it's essential for this version of the song. Let's do a verse and a chorus, and apply it, and let's see how it sounds. After midnight, we're gonna let it all hang out. After midnight, we're gonna chug along and shout. Stimulate some action, we're gonna get some satisfaction. We're gonna find out what it is all about. After midnight, we're gonna let it all hang out. Okay, now the Eric Clapton version, we're gonna stimulate some action, we're gonna get some satisfaction. Goes from the A to the D there and kind of stays in the D a little bit, and then up to the E. Hey, after midnight, we're gonna let it all hang down. Okay, that's the pattern, and that's the rhythm, the strumming pattern for After Midnight Eric Clapton style. Much higher energy, high tempo, and of course we're missing the backup singers here, but that part's included as well. Now let's move on to a funkier, slower J.J. Cale style of After Midnight. Well, there are a few changes in the if we're working with the J.J. Cale version here, and the most obvious thing that comes to mind is the tempo and feel. It's a slower, bluesier version. And I do have to apologize and stand corrected. I was listening to a live version. Going back and listening to the CD, the original version, which has a lot of piano in it, by the way, was in the key of D. After midnight, we're gonna let it all hang out. Was down there. But anyway, we've talked about A. We've settled on A as a key here. For we're going to change the style, but we're not going to revert back to that D key. And J.J. Cale plays it in other keys anyway live. So I've seen it in G, I've seen it in A, and obviously the original was in D. So here we go with A, and the first chord is going to be that A7 chord, which is again simply just removing the pinky from an A bar chord. Pinky's not there. See? Now this is just stuff I'm throwing in here to give you a version to play. As I say, the original version was a lot of piano. But let's take a look at this. Okay, the strumming. After midnight, we gon' let it all hang out. That's the strumming in the feel, not quite that slow. And so if we get back to this now. After midnight, we gon' let it all hang out. After midnight, we gon' chuck it, love, and shout. Now here's where it changes. In the J.J. Cale version, he goes to this from the chord progression here is from A to C to D to E. And I mentioned in the Eric Clapton version, it just went from A to D. So we're gonna stimulate some action. We're gonna get some satisfaction. We're gonna find out what it is all about. After midnight, we're gonna let it all hang out. Okay? Get the feel for that. Now I'm just going to show you that little, it's just kind of a standard little blues riff. Okay, so it's, I've got open A there. My third finger's on the 7th fret of the D string. And then I'm going to bar, like an A formation, across the 4-3-2 strings here. The other bar is on the 5th fret, so I move from a 3rd finger 7th fret bar to a 1st finger 5th fret bar, and then I'm going to hammer that middle string, the 3rd string, and then play the 7-5 frets on the 4th string. Bar 7, bar 5, hammer 6 on the 3rd string. Okay, and put it into context. After midnight, we gon' let it all hang out. After midnight, we gon' chug a love and shout. All right, fine tuning. The fine tuning word for the day is diversity and diversify. And that's what we've done today. A little bit of a different lesson. We've given you a couple different approaches to the same song. Both good. You pick and choose which one you enjoy playing more, but it's nice to get the feel and rhythm for both styles. It's going to help you be a better player. We'll see you next time on Song Mentor.